When you think of sustainability, you might think of something like this photo. A windmill in a beautiful valley in the mountains, generating power for a small village filled with happy people who use renewable shopping bags and drive inexpensive and very small electric cars. In other words, the idea of sustainability may bring up for many of us visions of a world that sounds a bit utopian and a little too perfect to be real. This exclusive view of sustainability is not uncommon, but it is incomplete, and it misses some of the key ways in which concepts and approaches from sustainability are starting to transform our towns, cities, and countries. More importantly, the idea sets out sustainability as a concept that is unreachable or perhaps even unreasonable depending on your perspective. So throughout this course, we will explore the opportunities that come from sustainable approaches and practices, but we will also talk seriously about the limits and the complexities that emerge out of this concept. In this video, we'll explore the concept of sustainability, where it came from, and how it applies in a modern and rapidly changing world. One of the most commonly cited definitions for sustainability comes from the Brundtland Commission of the United Nations in 1987, and this definition is focused on development. By development, we mean the way that societies develop their economies, their infrastructure, and their social structures. This definition says that sustainable development is a development type that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This focus places an emphasis on something called intergenerational equity, which in simple terms means that the future generations have rights similar to those of this generation. Embedded in this concept is another idea that the things that we do, the materials we use, what we build, should be done in ways that minimize impacts on future generations. There are many other definitions of sustainability. One that you may have also heard of is called the triple bottom line. This idea, first described by John Elkington, is focused on business. And instead of the traditional way of measuring the success or failure of a business, the triple bottom line focuses on three distinct ideas. The first part of the bottom line is profit and loss. Did the company make or did the company lose money? The second part of the triple bottom line is people. In this part of it, we ask, did the company exercise social responsibility, and did they improve the lives or livelihoods of their employees and their customers? The last part of the triple bottom line is about the planet, and for this part we ask whether or not the company showed environmental responsibility. Did they improve the environment or did they degrade it? The triple bottom line is one way to think more holistically about how companies function in a more sustainable way. From the descriptions we just went through, you might think that sustainability is a new concept. It is not. In fact, some would argue that the non-sustainable nature of our modern world is what is actually new. In some earlier cultures, the concept of sustainability was embedded in basic structures and function of society. One commonly cited example of this comes from what is commonly known as the Great Law of the Iroquois in the founding constitution from the early 1700s. In this constitution it is noted that any decision made shall consider the impacts carried over 7 generations. Just to bring this a little closer to home, that means that societal decisions should consider the welfare of your great-grandparents, your grandparents, your parents, you, your children, and your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren. How many decisions that we make today would meet that standard? These are just a few examples to get us started, but there are many other ways to think about sustainability. Personally, I take a fairly pragmatic view. There are virtually no human activities that are truly sustainable in a rigid sense of the definition. Everything we do has an impact. Resources are finite, space is limited, and in most cases, decisions have consequences that fall unevenly across society. The question that I usually wrestle with is how do we reduce these impacts and how do we make those impacts that occur more equitable? As an example, if we mine materials for our phones and our computers, how do we ensure that the impacts are as small as can possibly be and do not fall disproportionately on those who do not benefit from the technology? Some would say that this type of approach misses the point and that we must find ways to eliminate impacts altogether. That's fine. Reasonable people can disagree about what can be done reasonably in our modern world. But at the end of the day, the key point is that practically everything we do can be done with less impact. Or stated more bluntly, everything we do must be done with less impact if we hope to leave behind a functioning environment and an equitable society to our children. As we wrap up this short introductory video, here's just one last thought. Everything we talk about in this course is going to be complicated. All the systems we talk about in the coming weeks are complex. From food to water to energy and the climate, all the systems we describe involve people and some combination of the Earth's biological and physical systems. These systems rarely behave in the ways that you think they might, and they often have surprises that can create unforeseen problems. However, these systems also can be remarkably robust and resilient, and when managed properly, can sustain human life and preserve the broader functions of the Earth system.